And one of the interesting things about complexity is that people have this habit of when something's complex, turning away from it. Or struggling to kind of hold its gaze. Where there's complexity, it asks something of us to stay with it. I had this experience when I walked my mother river. And anyone who does something of this kind of nature would, there's the complex. I've spoken about this before. There's the complexity of the fact that farmers are dumping heaps of chicken shit into my mother river. That there's sections of it that are just like rubbish and like tires, and it's not just like my beautiful pure mother river. It's like the reality of her state in this moment. And I can kind of like look at her and be like, you are as you are, and see her for all that she is underneath the rubbish, but also with the rubbish. Like that's a part of this moment in time. Or I can kind of be like, okay, building my relationship with my mother river is too complex. I'm just not even going to do that one in this lifetime. I'm just not, it's just too much. And I think that's a version of that is how a lot of people experience the complex things in life. Is it's like, it's just a bit too much. There's no simple answer. What it's asking of me is actually an ongoing process that I don't have the answers for. Can I be in something that I don't have the answers for in an ongoing way? It's almost like the first thing we have to do is like accept, yeah, this shit is complex. It's complex in so many layers. It's probably 10,000 generations worth of complex, you know? And so before we go any further, we all have to make a choice at some point. In fact, we probably have to make the choice at many points over and over again over the journey of life to turn back towards the thing that challenges us or that isn't simple, to turn back towards it and to, without even like a need necessarily for things to change, but just to turn back towards it. It's like a person. It's as complex as a person is, this whole thing. And we can either like ignore a person or we can turn towards a person. And that's actually the definition of the word reconciliation. Reconciliation is a process of restoring relationship. There is a process that's kind of ongoing in some ways. I don't know if there is some kind of promised land at the end of it. It's not really about that. It's about the ongoing process of restoration. And I first encountered reconciliation, and I've built my relationship with that word and that idea through the Indigenous peoples of Australia. That's where it, like, just put ancestors to the side for a moment, although it's woven in, just the idea of reconciliation inside Australia. It's really kind of energetically present to me as a kind of a white man being in Australia, having a great love and a natural like intrigue in like the Aboriginal Australians over my entire life. And kind of like as I grew up, kind of working out more and more of like the cards they were dealt and the complexities of that particular kind of journey of colonization and genocide and cultural destruction and over a couple of hundred years. Like slowly I kind of built my relationship with like what that meant to Aboriginal Australians, the journey that they've been on, and also what it meant to I mean, I'm just going to very generally call it white Australia, but I just know that I just don't have the word for it in this moment, just like the colonizing Australia, like that British Australian kind of like force that came in, what it meant for them as well. So there's two sides of the party. There's the one that kind of comes in and takes over the land and does things that kind of oppress, and then there's the oppressed. So the oppressor and the oppressed. And I spent a lot of time kind of like, am I the oppressor? Like what? Like I have, like I have a love for these people. I'm inspired by them. Like I want to advocate for them. I'm drawn to them. Um, and also, yeah, just kind of like seeing things from both sides. I suppose what I'm saying is I spent a lot of time sitting in reconciliation, and it turned up for me the idea of reconciliation when I kind of caught myself one day as a as a primary school teacher at this point, and I was teaching the history of Australia to a classroom of 70% Aboriginal kids, and the history I was teaching was a lie. And I'm like, I'm fucking a part of cultural destruction and historical like rape in this moment with these 9-year olds. And it was a real big, like, whoa moment for me. A month later, I wasn't teaching anymore. Like, it was a real kind of like, oh, I'm a part of this. It's not the colonizers or the destroyers of culture aren't like back there in the 1700s. Like, it's me in this moment. Oh my God. And I have compassion for myself, of course, as I have to, because there's just the journey of awakening to the nature of things and finding your way through forgotten histories when it's being kind of like so contorted is such a challenging thing. But I had this kind of challenge, this really tangible experience of feeling like I'm like in love, like I'm in love with both sides of a story, and I'm a part of both sides of a story in some way. The reason I speak about the reconciliation with Aboriginal Australians is I spent years of my life in contemplation about what that would take. Like, what would it take? Not the sort of reconciliation that politicians talk about, but at like a deeper, more sacred, more very real level. What what would it take for genuine reconciliation to occur, or a process of genuine reconciliation to begin and then continue? And it's really helpful to have that conversation, because at some point when we move it across to ancestors, it becomes the same conversation. It's just in a different direction in life. And so what I learnt, and I didn't learn it from a book. I didn't learn it from anyone else. I learnt it from listening and from like learning from so many Indigenous teachers and looking at the story of Australia, and then since being over here, the story of Britain. Um, what I learned is that the only way that reconciliation can manifest is if two peoples can meet in the same consciousness. If two parties can find their way to the same consciousness. And the only consciousness within which genuine restoration can occur is original consciousness. Well, it's what I call original consciousness. It's the same thing as like true nature. It's the same thing as like what a lot of Indigenous communities in some form still touch. So the Aboriginal Australians, white Australia kind of has to meet them in their own love, in their own humanity. Only in like a genuine humanity can reconciliation occur. No amount of money, even no amount of like giving back land, that's not reconciliation. That doesn't actually create reconciliation. What creates reconciliation is like the genuine touching of the grief and the pain of what we've been through together, and the empathy, but with beyond even going to like, okay, I'm gonna like fix this. by giving you that. Okay, now I've given you that. This is all sorted now. Okay, you've got that. I'll give you billions and billions of dollars. Okay, but that's equal to all of that. It's like that's not reconciliation, and that doesn't create reconciliation in the peoples and in their bodies and in their beings and in their generations. So only in the genuine meeting of humanity, in the consciousness of humanity, can there be restoration. And humanity like hurts, and it's tender and it's raw, and there's tears and there's crying and there's wailing, and it is honest, and it is complex as fuck, like we've been saying, but only in that genuine meeting of humanity can there be a field within which restoration can begin to happen. It's not about the land. It's not about it's not about them getting back land. It's about the restorative reconciliation process, changing the consciousness of both peoples, you know? So the colonizers coming in, literally being contacted by the love and matured by the exchange to then value the forest and to learn about how the lands of Australia are nurtured and cared for, and the First Nations people of Australia being empowered by the heart of there's no going back. There's no, just like Aboriginal Australia being the only kind of like the Aboriginals being the only people of Australia. So we move forward. It's not just like the Indigenous people of Australia would have to empower those who've colonized Australia, those who've come and taken over Australia. Their medicines have to contact Indigenous Australia, and something new is born. So you see how there's both these parties, both these peoples, both these civilizations. There is no going back from here. Only through being contacted by each other can something new and beautiful and important emerge. It is the integration of two worlds that are integrated in different pieces of the human experience. And both sides contact the other side, and it changes the entire game.